Divorce happens. In fact, it happens to almost 50% of first marriages. So let's talk about it. Welcome to Divorce Happens, a podcast to educate, inspire, support, and yes, make you laugh through divorce and beyond so that you can start fresh on the next phase of your journey. Remember, divorce happens, and then we start fresh.
You'll get divorced. You'll get divorced.
Getting divorced?
I'm getting a divorce.
You're getting a divorce.
Because she's getting a divorce.
So what if I get divorced?
Hello. Welcome back to Divorce Happens, the show where we support you before, during, and after divorce with education, inspiration, and a little bit of laughter. Because as you know, divorce happens and then you start fresh. And we are here with one of our amazing Fresh Starts experts talking about harmony and community and all of the things that you're going to need but don't realize you need during and after divorce. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and then we'll dive in. So Amy, welcome. Who are you?
Hi, Olivia. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Amy. I'm a work-life harmony coach. Work-life harmony is a priority. It's not a nice to have. And I think during times where we get thrown into instability and survival mode and moments of transition, we forget that. So really just supporting people to maintain harmony through all phases of life. And also make sure that they're supported, reaching out, letting people know what's going on and figuring out new ways of defining support systems when you need.
Yes. So my question for you, Amy, is that so many people strive for that balance, right, of the work-life balance. And let's say that you're getting there, right? You're close. The kids maybe are out of diapers. You're finally feeling like a little bit of a human again. And then your spouse files for divorce, right? And that kind of dumps a whole ton of weight on your balance. How do we recalibrate? How do we find that harmony again during these life transitions?
Is there ever really balance?
No.
That's the thing. I think that sometimes it feels like we're reaching for it. And the reason I shifted to work-life harmony, which I feel like is becoming more widely received now, is just that balance felt like a lot of pressure. That if, like you're saying, one night maybe your kid doesn't sleep and, you're thrown off for a day or something bigger in life happens like divorce, you're not going to be balanced. And so I think there is acceptance in even throwing away the term balance and instead figuring, I'm looking to create some harmony. So that would be the first thing, is to change the way you're thinking about it and not have it be this pressure. But then also like trying to achieve harmony, I think it's clarity. Sometimes when something unexpected happens, you lose sight of, wait, what do I even want for myself? What is the direction you're trying to move in? And so creating some space for yourself, I know it's hard, but finding an opportunity to clarify, well, like what now? What are you working towards? And sometimes working with an outside perspective can be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you make such a good point about balance, because when we are striving for balance, that means we're always grinding towards something, right? Like we're always working, opposed to harmony, which is almost more of a flow state. Is that how you see it?
It is how I see it. More flow, more seamless. A lot of my clients end up being more proactive. So instead of, hey, I'm going to schedule my busiest work season and moving houses and switching kids schools and doing it all at once, we really think about your whole life and, hey, does this really make sense? Is this the best timing that's going to work? And how can we shift things so that there's better ebb and flow? But even talking about the word balance, it's like what I noticed with a lot of people I worked with is you can pile up the scales endlessly. There is no measure, like both of your scales are overloaded.
Right.
How does that feel? But with harmony, you're more mindful of creating enough space. Like we can focus more in life when needed. We can focus more at work when needed, and just kind of being mindful of what's realistic.
It's really the difference between feeling abundant and feeling scarcity,
Mm.
right? Because, like, with the balance, you're always like feeling like it's not enough, right? But with
Mm.
the harmony, it's like opening that up to abundance. So, when we're going through these life transitions, whether it is career change, separation, divorce, new baby, whatever it is,
Mm.
um, how can we just start simply trying to cultivate that new sense of harmony?
Mm. Yeah. I love what you said too about abundance versus scarcity. I feel like it's like operating for abundance too, like
Right.
designing systems for that. And I think that ties in really well with what you're asking. How do you move towards a more harmonious life? I think small steps go a long way. So, not challenging yourself to overnight creating a new life that you step into, but
Right.
really, again, going back into those sustainable small changes. So, if you think back on like your most ideal version of life when you were happy, when you felt, supported, when you had high quality relationships, how can we get 10% closer to that
Mm,
direction? Not trying to, overhaul everything, but just giving yourself grace along the way.
yeah.
And also recognizing that that might be looking at the other side of things. What was not working well for you? What
Mm,
was, something that you just felt like you went along with that you should have challenged or stood your ground or listened to your
yeah.
gut more on? And so really like taking that time and space to clarify all of those things so that you can move forward in a clearer direction. But I also recognize that some of that is who you're surrounded with. Divorce means,
Mm,
there's some changes, not just with your partner and your household, but sometimes that for a lot of people, that means losing friends, losing
yeah.
relationships, that they've had sometimes decades long. And so intentionally putting yourself in new settings with the limited
Mm,
time and energy that you have to find some sort of community that you feel connected to.
yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, what have you helped your clients do in terms of like really easy ways to center themselves in their own harmony while the world is chaotic around them?
Yeah. So it can start small. I mean, honestly, like the little things that you should be doing that don't happen. Breathing
Mm,
exercises in between your meetings. If you know you're going to meet with your lawyer, something that you're really like nerve-wracked about, doing
yeah.
that reset, taking a minute to remind your body you are physically okay goes a long way. Usually what happens when I do breathing exercises with clients is they say, I can't believe how much I needed that for my body to slow down to remind myself I'm okay.
Right.
So it can be things like that. It can be reflective exercises, journaling,
Mm,
really going through what's happening, but also envisioning what do you want for yourself? What is that future version? Especially so you don't just get swept up in somebody else's plan for you.
mm.
Um, yeah, so
I love that.
important,
Yeah.
important.
So, how do you work with clients? And if somebody's listening to this and they're like, I have no harmony in my life, I need to work with Amy, what does that look like?
Yeah. So it really is. I work with people. We think about your personal action plan. We think about your values. We think about how we can get you back to a place where you're feeling connected and aligned and supported and moving in a direction that you want to go in intentionally. So it starts with an exploratory conversation, no pressure, just understanding what's going on. I don't think that there are enough spaces that are really personalized. So the way that Fresh
Mhm.
Starts runs things where it's like so, reach out to you is like so personalized and dedicated, like understanding your unique circumstances. I completely align with that. And so it's just an exploratory conversation. Understand your unique needs and if it makes sense for us to work together
Yeah.
one on one, and community is a part of that. So you have access to the community where we have workshops, resources, expert guest speakers, and just,
Mm.
bolster you up.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So absolutely you can find Amy, of course, over at Fresh Starts. Before we let you go, Amy, if somebody is listening to this and they're considering divorce or navigating divorce, what would be some words of encouragement that you could leave them with?
You are worthy. I think that we forget that through the chaos of life. And so remember, you are worthy of designing a life that you love. It's possible.
Oh, I love that. That's true for everybody.
Mhm.
We appreciate you so much, Amy. This was really important info because it does feel like when we go through these life changes, like everything is out of whack and up in the air. But there is a way to find harmony, even amidst in the middle of, even in the middle of the chaos. And so we appreciate you helping people through that because it can be really lonely to be in the middle of all of that chaos and feel like you're never going to get out of that spiral. And so having somebody like you to walk through that with with them is huge. So we appreciate that. And of course, like I said, you can find Amy over at Fresh Starts. You can reach out to me or Amy and have that chat with her. Thank you so much for being here today, Amy.
Thank you, Olivia. I appreciate you.
Divorce Happens is produced by Fresh Starts Registry, the only divorce registry platform for everything you need to begin again, including home items, hype team, and everything in between. Remember, divorce happens, and then we start fresh. We're here to support you before, during, and after divorce. Head to freshstartsregistry.com for more info.